Constructivism, a theory that is quickly growing in influence within international relations, argues that all the factors that realism and Marxism claimed did not enter in to international affairs, but it's okay to bring them back into our analysis. In fact, we need to. You'll remember that realists and Marxists, and to a somewhat lesser extent institutional liberals, believe that we should focus only on the so-called objective factors in trying to understand and predict actions in international relations. Constructivists say, of course, these factors are all important, but to understand exactly how they are important, how they're going to affect international relations, we need not only know the objective facts on the ground, we need to understand how the important actors think about these factors, how they understand them. As Alexander Wendt, perhaps the primary founder of the Constructivist school, put it, even if the distribution of power does always affect states' actions, for us to understand exactly how it is going to do that, we need to understand the mindset of the important actors involved. Not just what the distribution of power is, but how it is thought to be, and what interpretations and implications the important decision makers draw. Realists simply take the nation state as a given, but the national identities that undergird nation states are socially and historically constructed, and how these national identities are constituted profoundly influence the way a state defines its national interests. For example, after the collapse of the Soviet Union, when East Germany was no longer controlled by the USSR, it was taken as a given by both people in Western and Eastern Germany that the nation of Germany should reunite, not because of some objective geopolitical factor, but because of the way that they thought of the nation of Germany. So what is seen as the nation is constituted by both military force, legal and bureaucratic and institutional factors, and intellectual and philosophical factors. It is both objectively and socially constructed. What is seen as the national interest of that nation is socially constructed. What a nation perceives as a threat is socially constructed as well. Wendt pointed out that even if Canada and Cuba had very, very similar structural positions in regards to the United States, American military power would be perceived very differently by the countries. For Cuba, as a threat. For Canada, not as a threat at all. To anticipate and preempt a possible misunderstanding, constructivists don't so much look at the individual psychology of important decision makers. There is a branch of international relations that looks at the psychology of individual leaders. Rather, constructivists are concerned with widely shared, sometimes called intersubjective beliefs or belief systems. For example, with understanding the ideas or the culture of security decision makers in this particular country, and of understanding the ways of thinking of the even larger group, the entire culture. Constructivists direct our attention to policy debates, both in the public at large and among policy makers. Constructivists believe that decisions in international affairs are never determined only by the external international situation, never only by international factors. There are always multiple policies that might be argued to be pursuing the national interest, always more than one direction a country could take. And since there are always multiple policy options, multiple choices, the choice between them is always filtered through political culture, domestic political views, even through domestic political considerations. Unlike realists, they believe that morality does affect states' behaviors in international relations, and they pay particular attention to norms, standards of appropriate behaviors. Examples would be international prohibitions on genocide and use of chemical weapons. They do not assume perfect knowledge either on the part of the public at large or even of the security community, but they'd also take into account many other factors. How each country perceives the other, the political cultures of each country. Since for constructivists, a given situation, a given set of social and political facts don't yield a necessary strategy or state action, what conclusions can constructivism come to? The answer is that constructivists come up with no general conclusions, no rules that are applicable to every situation. That's the meaning of the textbook's comment. Constructivism is not a substantive theory of international politics, which offers specific claims and hypotheses about patterns in world politics. Unlike Marxism, realism, and to some extent international liberalism, which believe that there are universal rules of international relations, constructivists argue that each situation is unique. We can look at history, but we need look at it again and again to understand each particular state action. To be continued.